So, to be honest, there really isn't that much tennis action going on. Of course, there's Dubai Open and some tournaments in the Middle East, but I think mostly the attention is focused on next week, which we have the Indian Wells tournament. Of course, it starts on March 4th, I think. So I won't be able to do a draw analysis for you guys because the draw didn't even come out yet. However, I want to just talk about what this tournament means because I feel like a lot of different things are happening, and this year has been really unexpectedly chaotic. Welcome, tennis fans, to Tennis Traverse Exploring the Game, the podcast that dives into the heart of the tennis world. I'm your host, Ivy Zhang. In today's episode, I will be briefly summarizing the tournaments that went on this week, as well as previewing Indian Wells and what the tournament means to a lot of different players. So yeah, let's get right into today's episode. I want to start off talking about just a few tournaments that took place this week. Dubai tennis for ATP and also Acapulco, which takes place in Mexico for the ATP tour as well. So this will be my first part, and then in the second part of the episode, which will be fairly brief, I want to talk about WTA changing their logo in their whole marketing campaign and just some stories surrounding it. And then for my third part of the episode, I want to preview Indian Wells. So the Dubai Tennis Championship is a 500-point tournament for the ATP side, and a lot of great players actually participated in this tournament. For example, we have the number first seed Daniil Medvedev, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Giovanni Pericard, Karen Khachanov, Gael Monfils, Matteo Berrettini, etc. And I think I really want to talk about how just despite having a great week, because of how tennis is so closely related, like you have a tournament a week after the other, despite doing like really great in a tournament before, it's really easy to just fall off because you have not that much time to recover for the next tournament. And I think sometimes this also relates to a Grand Slam. If you come into a Grand Slam winning the tournament, the previous tournament, sometimes you don't get enough time to prepare for that Grand Slam, which is more important than the tournament before. And I think that's something a lot of players have to balance. Sometimes if they make it to the semifinals, they'll withdraw because of some maybe minor discomfort in their body so they can prepare themselves for the actual Grand Slam that matters. And I think the perfect example of this week is Andre Rublev, because he performed great in Qatar. He got his 500 title. I think it's a 500 title for he hasn't gotten that title for a long time, and he finally got his title, but in Dubai he lost in the first round. So I think this just shows that a lot can happen, especially with playing like tennis, because every single game is so match and tournament are so sort of consecutive that it's really easy to just have your performance fluctuate. But anyways, let's go back to talking about Dubai. I think I want to talk about the finals because Tsitsipas hasn't won an ATP 500 title. He lost 12 in a row, which is sort of an interesting stat. And this is his first time winning a 500 title. And he beat someone that, to be frank, it also started, he started off his career not winning that many finals, which is Felix Auger-Aliassime. And I think I'm happy for both of these players, because both of these players really struggled for the past 3 years. I feel like the hype around them there were a lot of hype around them, but I think just after a lot of injuries and just some not great performances, especially some early round exits at Grand Slams, there has been a lot of doubt. But sort of similar with Andre Rublev, I feel like they both managed to all three of these players managed to maybe have a breakthrough and just get these wins that they really need to boost their confidence in preparation for Indian Wells and the future Grand Slams. So yeah, and that's basically all I want to say about Dubai. And now I want to move on to Acapulco, which is another tennis tournament that takes place in Mexico. And in this tournament, we also have some pretty good players. We have Lerner Tien, Thomas Mahach, Francis Tiafoe, Casper Ruud, Alexander Zverev. And I really do want to talk about Alexander Zverev because he lost to Lerner Tien in the round of 16th with a score of 3-6 and 4-6. I think Zverev is having a hard time defending his number 2 in the world ranking because he's been having a lot of troubles winning matches or just going really far. He's been winning matches consecutively, but sometimes he just fails when it actually matters the most, and he just, for example, can't make it to the final or semifinal. And I think the reason why he skipped the Middle East tournament of Qatar and Dubai is because he wanted to get more experience on clay, because I think Roland Garros is his best chance to win a Grand Slam. Last year he went 2 sets up against Carlos Alcaraz in the finals. So I think he really wants to get more practice in, and not just get more practices in, but I feel like the clay court swing during the Middle East swing is less competitive, and I think he really wanted to just capture more ranking points so he can be seeded higher at a Grand Slam or at an 1,000 event. Because if you're, for example, if you still are the number 2 seed, you're going to face against, for example, Jannik Sinner, who's the number 1 player. Obviously, I know he's not playing in the finals. So I think he really just wants his draw to be as kind to him as possible for the upcoming tournament. But I feel like this has just been not that successful for Zverev. I feel like he expected to go to the finals of, for example, Mexican Open, or go to the finals of Rio. But instead, he's just been stuck in the round of 16th. And I mean, Lerner Tien is an incredible player. And I think the way he's able to go rally with Zverev and just know when it is the best moment to hit it to Zverev's backhand or forehand is really impressive. I think he has the confidence to go rally with Zverev's backhand, which is notably, I think, Zverev's best shot. His backhand is actually, I think, one of the best backhands, if not the best backhand on the ATP tour. So yeah, I think Lerner Tien is really confident, and I like how he plays in a way that it's really different from John Fonseca, but he's more artistic with his shots, whereas Fonseca is pure power. So if we can see a matchup between these two, I think it will be highly entertaining. So that is that. Before the final of Mexican Open, we have Thomas Mahach versus Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. So for Fokina, I really want him to win a tournament because I feel like he's been having a great year. He beat Felix Auger-Aliassime in Australia, and he also went to the final of Delray Beach, where he was really close to winning that title, but lost in a fashion that I think is just really representative of who he is. And Mexican Open, I think, going to the final against Thomas Mahach, I think both of these players sometimes really are not really good at their mental game. I feel like if one thing doesn't go their way, they could likely have just a breakdown and everything else in their game will fall apart. So I think both of these players aren't really strong mental game wise. However, I feel like even though I would say Mahach is more talented, I'd say, game wise, but I feel like Fokina really have a chance of beating Mahach. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. This is taking place 10 p.m. today. I won't be watching it, but I think it'll be a great match. Okay, now I want to move on to part 2, and this part will be kind of short because it will be about the WTA logo change. So my version of events is I was at school, and then I was going on Instagram and I saw a green logo that's at WTA, and I was like, what is this WTA? I only follow the tennis WTA. What is happening? Why is it green? So I thought it was like some random organization I followed. So I clicked onto it and it turned out it's the tennis thing. And I was like, why is it green? And it was just really surprising to me because this entire thing was just out of nowhere, for me at least. And it was kind of abrupt. But I mean, at least we got a lot of cool photo shoots for the players. And I don't necessarily think it's going to do anything. I do think that their WTA website is improved. So I'll leave a link for you guys if you guys want to go check it out. I think they edited it and it's like all green and orange theme. I like this better because it's more clear, especially, for example, if you go to tournaments, it has all the things separated really clearly, and I like how it looks visually. However, I don't know what's this for. Like, what is this for? I think it's to get more talk because of the logo change, which I think is a good thing. I think it's really important that we keep the conversation going, but I feel like this is like a weird time to do it. I would rather have it taking place before a Grand Slam because I just feel like this is a little bit out of nowhere and people like me are going to be confused about why the logo is suddenly green. Yeah, it's just a little bit weird. But I guess it did what it has to do, which is to get the people talking, and it clearly did get me talking. And yeah, it's a whole rebranding and I don't know what's going to happen. I think they're trying to restart it and just to get more talk surrounding, which I think it's working, I guess. But yeah. Okay. That's all for part 2. I'll take a little break and we'll move on to part 3 of today's episode. Okay, so welcome back to part 3, and I want to just break down the Indian Wells tournament and tell you guys about the implication this tournament might bring to the tennis season. So for me, I would use the word unexpected to summarize this year's tennis season. I think a lot of interesting things has happened, and both the WTA and ATP side had a bunch of unexpected results, and I think a lot of them has to do with just players maybe performing great at the start of the season. For example, Coco Gauff, Aryna Sabalenka, and we thought that they will carry out their really great performances to the Grand Slams, but they actually didn't do that. So for example, I thought Coco Gauff or Aryna Sabalenka are going to win the Australian Open, but instead, Madison Keys won the title, which, I mean, for me, I'm all for it. I love Madison Keys. I really do. I think she's so talented and she really deserves a win, like a Grand Slam win. I think she really deserves it. But at the same time, I'm like, I expected them to maybe just perform at a higher level than they did. And Sabalenka has not been performing well in the Middle East as well. So is Iga Swiatek. And I think maybe some of it have to do with her doping case. But just overall, I think the word I want to use to describe the WTA Indian Wells is open. Because I truly think anyone can win this tournament. And I feel like the golden swing of Indian Wells and Miami are just similar in a way that truly anyone can win. I know last year Iga won and Daniel Collins won Miami, but I think this year there's so many players that people should look out for. For example, Madison Keys, she's going to have the support from the US crowd. For example, Clara Towson. For example, Diana Schneider. For example, Donna Vekic, Naomi Osaka. I think Naomi really performed well. She beat Caroline Mukova, which is another great player. And I know I might be a little bit biased, but I really do think that Naomi have a chance of going to the semifinals because like the field is just so open right now and truly anyone can have a breakthrough. So that's for the WTA side. And for the ATP side, I would think it's similar because although Jannik Sinner is missing this tournament, we still like, I feel like if Jannik Sinner was playing this tournament, then he would obviously be the favorite. But because he isn't playing this tournament, we have players like Carlos Alcaraz, Alexander Zverev, or I'll even put Novak Djokovic in there, who think they have a chance of winning. And I truly think Djokovic especially should hang on to this tournament, because for Djokovic, I feel like his main goal now is to win consecutively high-level matches in a row, which he hasn't been able to do for this year. And I think he's going to have an easier chance to do that at Indian Wells, because obviously Sinner is undergoing his ban, and I think Djokovic really likes his matchup against Zverev. And for Carlos Alcaraz, he already beat him once at Australia, so I don't think he's going to be going into that matchup feeling really stressed. So I mean, I really have Djokovic on my list for winning one of these tournaments. But yeah, that's all I want to say. I know this episode is a little bit short, but I just want to give a preview of what's happening. This week is sort of like a filler week because we really didn't have that much going on. But with the Indian Wells that's coming up, we'll have a great tournament that's going on. And I can't wait for how exciting it's going to be. So yeah, if you guys haven't followed all of my social medias, you should. It's at Tennis Traverse. That is at Tennis Traverse on Instagram and Twitter. If you're listening on Spotify, then please give me a rating. And if you're listening on YouTube, please comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps out a lot. If you're listening on other streaming platforms, just like what you did with Spotify, please make sure to rate my show, and it really helps out. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next week.